What's up, everybody? This is Phil Rogacki.
And I'm Jared Abergina.
You're listening to Two Tree Guys Podcast.
Mic drop. Time for the mic drop.
What's up, everybody? This is Phil Rogacki with Two Tree Guys, but we're bringing another episode of Mic Drop. Mr. Michael Volken, director of the Academy on the marketing side with us. And this is a segment that we brought to you guys a while ago, and we're going to keep bringing this back a couple times a month. But we're focusing on sales. We're focusing on marketing for the tree care industry, and for you guys to be able to get some little nuggets and small little 10 to 15 minute episodes to help you grow your business and help to expand out there. So welcome again, my friend.
Thank you.
Welcome again.
Yeah, I heard those protests in the streets to bring me back. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, there was a little bit of protest happening.
Yeah, that's good. And congratulations on being number 6 in, what is it, South Korea? That's fantastic.
North Korea.
North Korea. Oh, well, one of them. Yeah,
we're popular out there.
That's great.
Yeah, we were. It
internationals.
was funny. We were actually ranked number 73,
Whoa.
and I was so excited when someone told me, "Hey, you're ranked 73." I'm like, "What? In podcasting?" Yes, in South Korea.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh
That's
my
awesome.
gosh." I'm like, "Well, I guess that's cool."
Yeah, world
We're
domination.
ranked. Yeah.
Good for you.
No, man, but always excited to have you on the show and to talk about marketing, because marketing leads the way, and this is the Mic Drop episode. So
I love that name.
What are we talking about today for everybody that's listening right now?
We're going to talk about the 7 stats that you need to monitor as a tree service company, because if you don't monitor your stats, you're not reacting fast enough, you're not being proactive, you're being reactive, and it's really easy to monitor stats nowadays. We're in the age of what's called big data, and stats are available in real time across the world in all different forms. So I'm going to give you the top 7 stats that you should be keeping an eye on that will get you like 90% of the way there for knowing the key important numbers for your company.
Gotcha. And when you say the stats, they're going to be monitoring, what are these numbers that they want to get for their company?
I mean, everything from revenue to profit, and then on the QuickBooks side or the book side, and then you've also got all the analytics from the website side. So there's a lot of different numbers you can be monitoring for all different avenues of your company. So
you got to have a scorecard.
Got to have a scorecard, yeah.
You at least need these numbers to set a basis of how to improve upon those numbers.
Right. And, with all the real-time stats nowadays, you can share it across the world. If you have freelancers working with you or remote employees, you can have there's lots of companies out there like the one, I was referring to you about earlier called Cyfe, C-Y-F-E, one of my favorites. Real-time monitoring of stats. You can pipe it in from various locations and just, if you have a TV screen, just pump it up there and just all the time, you're just looking at stats whenever you want. It's great. Even on your phone.
Awesome.
On the go.
Let's go through these.
Well, the first thing, first of all, let me just define a common word or a common phrase, KPIs, key performance indicators, right? Those are stats that are crucial. It's different than a metric. So a metric is just really a monitored number. A key performance indicator or a KPI is tied to a goal, like a revenue goal. Like let's say it's January 1st and you say, hey, by December 31st, I want to make $2 million in revenue. That would be a KPI. If something you're just monitoring and it really doesn't affect your bottom line, so to speak, that would be more of a metric. It's not tied to a specific goal or a marketing campaign.
Gotcha.
So that's the difference. So with that said, let me talk to you about the top 7 stats that you should be monitoring, or KPIs that you should be monitoring as a tree service company. And with the caveat is that if you are a manager of a tree service company or an owner, or you're just working for a tree service company and run a side business, these 7 metrics will also apply to just about any company.
Gotcha.
So the first one would be CLTV. That stands for the customer lifetime value. So how much a customer spends with you over time. So let's say a new customer comes in and orders $2,000 of whatever, e-commerce product, stump removal, whatever.
Yeah.
And
Plant
then
Healthcare, they're on a yearly basis that they're doing.
Yeah, recurring.
Yeah.
So the CLTV is something you should be monitoring, because it's not just the initial payment that you get from that customer. He could be coming back, or she could be coming back multiple times over the year or many years. So a CLTV, even though the initial order may be $2,000, that value of that customer may be $50,000. So why is that important to measure something like that? Well, if you spend $2,500 to bring in a customer that's typical order is $2,000, you're going to be like, well, I'm losing $500 every time I bring in a customer, right? But if you know your CLTV, you know that that customer on average is going to be spending about 50 grand with you.
Gotcha.
Then you can justify a $2,500, revenue to bring that in, or expense to bring that in.
Gotcha.
So CLTV is very important to understand, and it's actually quite easy to get. Even historically, you can go through your QuickBooks or any kind of bookkeeping program you have, and just look at the customer record and just do an average of what the average customer will spend with you. All right.
That's great.
That's one of them. The other one is the customer acquisition cost, which is also called the CAC, customer acquisition cost. So how much does it cost you to acquire a customer? So you want to run Google Ads, and you know that it costs about $300 to bring in an ad or a customer through an ad through Google Ads.
Yeah.
But you also know you're running Facebook ads, and it costs you $500 to bring in a customer. So you have to know your customer acquisition costs across various multiple marketing channels, because if one is super expensive but it's still working and the other one is cheaper and it's working just as fine, you might want to partition your budget to go to the one that's bringing you to the lower CAC, or customer acquisition cost.
Just
so
like
really
you said,
important.
running ads through Google or running it through Bing, right?
Google or Bing,
and
Facebook,
Bing's cheaper.
yeah.
So if you're seeing the same return on both, Bing might be one that you want to focus on more.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And it might not be the same. It might not just be, hey, Bing is lower and that's it forever. I mean, every week, every month, look at your numbers.
Okay.
A lot of people just set it and forget it, like marketing campaigns. And I'm going to tell you from experience, that is going to cost you a lot of money if you do that. So put in your calendar. I keep referencing a calendar because I live and die by a calendar. Every week, half an hour, look at your numbers. Find out what your CAC
Gotcha.
is. Google Ads has a dashboard. It'll tell you what that
Now,
all that is.
when do you schedule this in your week to look at this stuff?
Typically, I like to do it on a Friday afternoon. You know, things are kind of calming down. The hustle and bustle of the week is hopefully getting behind you. And that's usually a time where I can just look at the numbers from Friday to the previous, or the Friday of today into the previous Friday,
Gotcha.
and just look at that 7-day period.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we're talking about the 7 stats you need to monitor a tree service company. We talked about the CLTV. We've talked about the CAC. And now we're going to talk about an easy one, AOV, average order value. All right. So what is the average order you get? So if you're running a company that sells tree safety courses, or, to climbers or equipment, if you can, if you know that your average order value is $200, like people are willing to pay $200, then you know that your goal might be to increase that to $250 by doing what? You can raise prices, you can increase the value that you're offering, you can do a 2-for-1, do an upsell, or a coupon code with an upsell. There's a lot of variations you can do. Once you know what the average customer is typically going to spend with you, you now have a goal, a KPI metric, to increase that. And your goal might be, let's increase the average order value 10% this quarter year, or 100%. So at least as you have a baseline metric like an AOV, you know that you have a goal to increase it. So
Interesting.
All right.
And that, a lot of multifamily properties, I would do that too. When I went in, I knew the average multifamily apartment was about $7,500 for each one it would spend. But then over the years of collecting all that data, I knew that every property spends an average of $65 per tree per year. So I could go in and I knew that if it had 100 trees, they're going to spend $6,500 a year on average for that. So I looked at the customer. I knew that's the average. I knew that's what I at least wanted to get based on the amount of trees they had and with the plant healthcare. And then I knew that client over the next 3 years was worth about $20,000 to me. And so all this is making sense of,
Smart.
These numbers that you're putting to, these abbreviations and key performance indicators. That you have. So.
Now, that's smart. Keep in mind, though, that if you're not an e-commerce company and you sell local services and you have multiple locations, your AOV, your average order value, might vary from location to location. It could be on a number of factors. Maybe the cost of living is lower or higher in another area. And then, so you have to evaluate it on a local basis.
Each area, because Fresno is not the same way as San Jose.
I know. Yep. Very different cost of living for sure.
Yeah.
Another one I want to talk to you about, and if you're just joining us, we're talking about the 7 stats you need to monitor as a tree service company, or really any company, is the LRT. This is a less common one to monitor, but is so important given the competitive nature of the tree service industry. The LRT is a lead response time. So how quick can you get back to that lead? So here's an example. Let's say you're running Yelp leads. On a service like Yelp, if you're not familiar with Yelp ads, usually people will submit a quote and you'll get it, and 5 of your other competitors will get it as well. And it's usually the race to the first one to respond and get to their house to give them a quote wins, right? So the lead response time is super important. And if you know that your response time is 3 hours and your success rate with Yelp ads is 10%, then you know, hey, let me try getting to all the leads within 2 hours and seeing if that increases my conversion rate, maybe 20%. So it might be worth justifying the cost to get, I don't know, another assistant or a phone, a virtual phone assistant that could just, answer the phone all day long and get your response rate down. If it doubles your conversion rate, it's well worth the cost, right? So lead response time is very important. It's not just the fastest one to respond to the lead wins, but it's the fastest one that services the needs of the person that submitted the quote.
Absolutely. And the majority of, companies that are out there, they focus on the residential part of that. So 90% of the companies are all residential, and speed of servicing the client is very important because they have a need, and then the need just came up not 6 months ago, and they knew they were going to call a tree company. The need came up yesterday.
I know.
Because the wife or the husband go, shit,
past due.
I need to do this. Or a limb falls and breaks and hits the car. So now all of a sudden it's a rush. I need to get it done now.
Yeah.
So who can react the fastest on the calls and on getting the job done and the price is fair? That's the company we'll probably go to.
I don't know what it's like in South Korea, but in America, we want everything yesterday, right? So it's super important to get back to them as soon as possible. Like I go into a fast food restaurant and I'm like ordering a burger and I'm like, I'll take a Big Mac. Where is it? Like I barely even finished my sentence and I want it. That's just the way Americans are. So getting to them, like 3 hour response time is way too slow. Like somebody else has already responded to them, is probably at their house by now. So always look at getting your lead response time down. Monitor that. Okay.
All right. Next one.
Another one, budget variance. So let's continue on with our Yelp and our Google ads.
We're
and
on lead
marketing
conversion.
campaigns. Oh, okay. Let's talk about lead
you're
conversion
going too
percentage.
fast here. You get to the end quick.
These aren't necessarily in order, but we can go. These are you want to go in alphabetical order. Let's do that.
I'm keeping a line here.
Let's do lead conversion percentage. So how many of your leads turn into customers? That's really important. So let's say you bring in 100 leads through a really slick, cool marketing campaign you put together, but you only closed one of them. So your lead conversion percentage is 1%, which is not that good. So now that you know that, you have the power to double it, triple it, quadruple it, or even more, and you know where the most effective leads are coming from. So your Google ads may be more expensive, but they're 5 times more effective because you're closing them, right? So there's that variation too that you have to think about in addition to like the CLTV and the CAC and all those other stats we just talked about. You have to know your lead conversion percentage.
Love it.
Yep. So now can we talk about the budget variance?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so the next one is the budget variance. So planned versus actual. So let's say you set aside $2,000 a month to run Google ads and Yelp ads, right? And your budget, you wound up only spending half of that amount. Well, now you know moving forward that even though you planned on $2,000 and you wound up spending $1,000, you have a variance. You know how much money you can double up the next month, maybe to make up for the lost percentage there in the previous month, or maybe you went over and you can compensate, over or under your budget there. But knowing where you're at in your budget will keep you on track and make sure you don't overspend or underspend. And that's also really important for forecasting your budget for the following year or the year after that when you're at the beginning of the year where you're making budgets.
Good.
Right? Okay, so the goal here was to list the top 7 stats, and we've talked about 6 of them. We're going to go with a term that you probably are all familiar with called ROI, return on investment. All right, so it's used to evaluate the efficiency or the profitability of an investment or compare the efficiency of it. So your return on your investment, you could say that through Google Ads, I spent $1,000, but I also made $2,000 from that $1,000. Now, that seems like it's really good because you made $1,000, but you also spent 50% of your profit on ads.
Yeah.
That's not going to work for a lot of people, right? Sometimes in an industry, especially e-commerce, you're competing with Amazon, margins are pretty thin. You might have, a 10% margin. So making $2,000 off $1,000 of advertising is still a losing proposition, So you have to keep an eye on your ROI and know what it is before you launch a campaign. You might say, if I'm going to spend $1,000, I need $4,000 just to break even, because I know that my cost of goods are this. It's going to cost me X amount to send somebody out to the house, and it's going to take 3 hours to do that, and that's my cost, right? So know your expenses going into servicing a client or sending out an e-commerce product. Know your ad costs, and the total of that would be what you need to subtract from your total profit of your marketing campaign. So just as a quick recap, your 7 stats that you need to monitor as a tree service company: CLTV, which is your customer lifetime value; CAC, which is your customer acquisition cost; AOV, your average order value; LRT, your lead response time; your lead conversion percentage; your budget variance, and your ROI. So what I'm going to do, Phil, is I'm going to put these in the show notes.
Okay.
So you guys don't have to memorize them. So as long as you give me a like on Instagram and, grab those show notes so you can have them handy. And then I'm telling you, it's really easy once you understand what each of these are to be able to set these up and monitor them in real time.
All right. So I'm listening. Somebody's listening to this, driving right now. They hear all this. A lot of these abbreviations, these 7 stats you need to monitor, this is something they've never heard before, right? So I need to start tomorrow. Where the heck do I start?
Good question.
To start knocking these out and to start seeing this and monitoring this, and where does it live?
Yes. To answer your question, majority of these could be done through Google Analytics. So sign up for a free Google Analytics account, and there's a little code that they're going to give you to put on your website, so you can monitor website stats that way. The remaining of these stats can be grabbed out of your either QuickBooks or whatever bookkeeping solution you're using. Okay, so go ahead and if you have a bookkeeper, an accountant, or if you do it yourself, run those reports. You'll probably find them in the reports section of QuickBooks, where you can run your average order value, your CAC pretty easily,
Gotcha.
and your CLTV. So,
okay. And then if they have any questions, you just send out your address, your personal phone number, and they can contact you 24/7.
That's right, 24/7. I'm available to all you guys.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So, guys, top 7 stats you need to monitor. That was good. That was good. That was a mic drop right there. So appreciate everybody listening in on the Two Tree Guy podcast, mic drop edition. So stay tuned for some more of these marketing tips, tricks. Marketing leads the way for everybody. So again, appreciate everybody. We don't have a fee for the show. The only fee we have is share it. If you liked it, if you got something out of it, please share it on your page. Please share it on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you're watching it. Share it to somebody else that could get something out of it, or tag a friend with it. So
hashtag mic drop.
Hashtag mic drop. All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Have a good one.